Marriage can be stressful. Entrepreneurship is stressful. Running a business is stressful. So, what do things look like when things inside of your marriage and inside of your business clash? How do you deal with the stress? How do you deal with your kids if you have any? How do you structure your days? How do you fix stress in your marriage so you can be more happy? Great news. My guests today have the answers. If you are an entrepreneur or business owner in a stressful relationship or marriage and would like some solid advice to getting back to love and happiness, then don't miss out on this episode of the Marketing Podcast Party. Cue the music. Hey, welcome to the Marketing Podcast Party. The only marketing podcast where you and I party together while discovering big, bold, and wildly successful marketing ideas that can transform your business. I'm your host, Daniel Dan. Let's get this party started. Yeah. Let's go. Nice. I love it. Let's get going. In today's episode, my guests and I are going to dive deep into marriage secrets for successful entrepreneurs and business owners so that we can have better marketing, make more money, etc., and still be happy people. And after today's episode, if you'd like more business and marketing tips, then I want to invite you to grab a free copy of my new book, Ideas That Influence, that was created to help people discover big, bold, and wildly successful marketing ideas. So after today's episode, I want to give you a copy of this for free, and it comes with this amazing box experience. So if you'd like your free plus shipping copy of Ideas That Influence, head on over to bigideasbox.com. Once again, that's bigideasbox.com. You get the book and the box experience for free. I just ask that you pay shipping and handling. And now it's time to introduce my very special guests. First of all, Lauren Anderson is a graphic designer turned cookier who is obsessed with creating more joy in life and in the kitchen. She has been able to do some amazing things on YouTube as well, and inside of her cookie business. She is also an amazing mom and friend. And our second guest is Lauren's husband, Preston. Preston Anderson is a CPA and the founder of Anderson.tax. Anderson, S-O-N, not S-E-N. Anderson with an S-O-N. Anderson.tax. There you go. So his business, Anderson.tax, it's not nearly as exciting as Lauren's.
No.
Cookies are more fun.
Cookies are more fun. But his business is super successful. He now serves over 80 clients. And when he's not saving his clients from overpaying the IRS, you'll find him hanging out with Lauren and the kids and geeking out over credit card points to score epic travel deals. You guys have gotten to some really cool places as a family. So there you go. I'm very excited to welcome to the show the amazing Lauren Anderson and the amazing Preston Anderson. Let's go.
Let's go. Woo!
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Marketing Podcast Party. Thank you so much.
Yo, Dan, thanks.
So cool to be here.
So we got to start with what's the journey that got you to where you are today, where you're not necessarily marriage like advisors, but you guys have some amazing tips, right? Because you guys have an amazing family. You guys both have done some pretty incredible things as entrepreneurs and as business owners. You guys have a lot of stories. What's the journey that got you to where you are today in life before we jump into all of the cool tips?
Lauren, you want to take it?
Preston, you go.
Okay.
No, you go first, okay? Because there's lots of stories. We are not marriage counselors. We are
No.
not marriage therapists, but man, we do have some experiences. So,
And then
you
if
go
Preston
first.
goes first, then you get to correct everything.
So
You go.
That's the trick, right? That's the
yeah.
trick.
So
Yeah.
we got married in 2010. It's been we're going on 15 years. And the first few years were great. I mean, we had some challenges in our lives, but I didn't really notice them. Like we had our first year of marriage, we had some people over that were teaching us a lesson, and they asked, "Oh, have you guys faced any challenges?" And I kind of responded, "No, not really." And then I kind of stopped and I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess we've had a bankruptcy, we've had this and that. I guess there's been some, but we didn't really notice them." And then in 2015, my son was born, and he crushed me. He crushed us. He had he was our third child, and he had 6 congenital heart defects. Was in the hospital for 2 years, and uh, he almost died a few times. And it crushed me. It crushed us. Our marriage was like literally hanging on by a thread. And there was one point, Lauren actually even asked me to move out. I don't think it was an ask. It was more of a very strong suggestion.
Well, okay. Yes, I'm gonna, okay. There
Correction.
were lots of things
Correction
leading
time.
up to that though, because that was
Oh, there
not
was a lot of
ever,
things leading up
that
to
was
that.
never a go-to. Yeah. It wasn't like, you get
No,
out. It
It
was
was,
like,
it was the tipping point,
it was
right?
the tipping
things
point.
keep going this way, like,
This
holy cow.
judge, we'll explain
Yeah.
our gear in a little bit, but this judge understands that was okay. That was the tipping point. Okay.
Yeah, so there was a lot of and I was not dealing with things well at all. And it was actually a day where like I was allowing my rage and my anger, and I had a freak out moment, and I broke a door. Like should not have done that, but I wasn't handling my emotions well at all. And so she's like, "All right, dude, you got to fix this." And
I think we got to change some
gotta
things.
change some things. And what happened was she kept trying to fix me, and I was like not fixable by her. And what we both realized was like the more we work on ourselves, the closer we grow together. So I started down this like personal development journey, and as I started, she was like, "Hey, he's actually getting better. Like there are things that he's doing, and he's actually progressing." And I was like, I mean, I went from like literally not getting out of bed to like crawling, and it was a very, very long, slow, hard process for me. But she saw me actually improving, and so she's like, "Well, hey, I thought she was doing really well, but I saw her take that same coach who basically in like 6 months helped me go from getting out of not getting out of bed to crawling." And she's like, "I'll take some of that personal development too." And in 4 weeks, she's like, "Sweet, I'm off to the races." And she blew me out of the
I
water.
don't
And I
like to
was
waste
just
time.
trying to catch
I
up.
don't like to waste time. And I was like, if I'm going to do something, let's get to it. Let's do it. So, yeah.
You were still crawling. So the personal development, the trajectory was all positive. You were crawling and she was running marathons.
She was off to the races, man. I was just trying to keep my head above water, not die, and she was like, "Let's do this. What's holding you back?" And so I started the process. I started the journey. She saw it, kind of jumped on, and but as we worked on ourselves and not trying to fix the other person, but as we worked on ourselves, as we fixed our own garbage,
Mhm.
we just got closer and closer and closer as a couple. And I mean, there's been ups and downs, but like we continue this journey together, and it's like we're at this little triangle, and the closer we get to like our uh best self, the closer we get as a couple, and the closer we grow together. So
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. All right, Lauren. So all the corrections.
Yes.
What's
Well,
your
one,
what's your
like,
what's your
it's not
viewpoint?
okay. I would like to make for the record, I don't just kicking people out of my home is not a go-to.
oh no, I never said it was. It was a
No, I know. And so, yeah. So that was definitely one of the tipping points. I
Mhm.
would say like Preston's absolutely right. And like our journey together and like what led to like the biggest experiences for us that have shaped who we are now as people, as in our marriage, and like as parents too, is all of that for me. Going through the hospital time with my son, like I was his main caregiver, and I got fatigued at a certain point. That's how the cookies kind of came into all of this, right?
Mhm.
And that will kind of became my therapy. I dove into that, and and it turned into this whole thing. But like throughout it all, it's almost like, I don't know, I feel like with Preston and I, it's almost like there's a yin and yang. It's like there's definitely been roller coasters. Sometimes we've both been up, both been down, sometimes crisscrossing, and not without like struggles, but like, okay, case in point, even last night we had a little bit of a conversation,
We'll
and we
call it
were kind
that.
of mad at each other. We were kind of mad at each other, and I was in the kitchen and I was in the middle of cooking dinner, and I was like, dang it, I am going to stay mad at him, and I'm just so pissed off right now. And then we were both like, we can't even go 20 minutes. We're like, I hate this. We got to figure this out. Like, it's so uncomfortable that we're like, okay, we got to get back on the same page. So that's how, I don't know, I feel like we're drawn to that, where it's like we don't like feeling off page from each other. And so
Yeah.
even in like really horrible times where it feels like it's never going to end, like, I don't know.
I think one of the things that we've been able to learn and do like insanely well is be comfortable in those hard conversations. So in those
Yeah.
times where we're struggling, where we're upset at each other, we don't back away and just turn off. And to be honest, the first few years of our marriage, we
Yeah.
actually, more and more so than me, I was like trying to cling to her, and she would like build a wall and like kind of cut me off. And we no longer,
Yeah, that was kind of my
yeah,
go-to. It's like I didn't even know I was doing it. Like I would just
Mm.
try and protect myself, and I build these emotional walls, and I was like, nobody can come in because I gotta, be okay.
Can
But
you go
now,
can you go deeper on that? What do you mean by, because can mean a lot of things. Like but and then putting up the wall can mean a lot of things. Like what like more details on what you're
yeah,
explaining.
so I was like, when I was struggling, and if I did something that upset Lauren,
Hmm.
rather than like uh bring me in and like say, hey, it's all right, let's fix this, and like sit in the uncomfort of those difficult conversations,
Hmm.
she would turn off, and she would not necessarily ignore me, but like she had emotional boundaries around her, and she would not allow me to be emotionally close during those times. And I was like reaching out, trying to like use her as a life raft, right? Here as my little,
yeah. But that's the thing, yeah, because he wanted to use my like energy and everything,
Yeah.
and I was like, it just wasn't aligning, right? And so
Hmm.
like he needed help in certain areas, and I needed a different kind of help. We didn't realize it for a long time, like
Yeah.
that's what was happening, and that the uncomfortable part. So I remember when Preston, I would say around that time with Micah, where he was struggling a lot, he started getting into personal development, and there's multiple conversations we've had about it since then. But like the first time I heard, you have to learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I would say the first time it really sunk in for me, Preston, I don't even know if you know this, is when you were one of your first coaches and they were trying to teach you like how to do sales calls. And one of the ways they were teaching you to do sales calls is like to use silence on a phone call. And I was like, huh, that's uncomfortable. It's weird. Like, how do you get used to that? And so that was when the wheels started turning for me of like, oh, it's okay to feel uncomfortable, like, and learn to sit with that and be okay with it was like, well, really hard at first. And I was like, oh, I think I need that. Like, I think I knew that I needed that. And so that's kind of how I started to break down some of my walls and allow Preston to get closer to me during hard times, was like, oh, it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you make realizations.
So as the host, people would be upset with me if I didn't ask you who was that first coach that helped you guys so much. Because I bet they're
You
like,
know,
I don't know, like
it
who's the
was,
coach? Who's the coach?
well, but it was good. Yeah. I mean, it was a good tact. It was, I don't know. I learned a lot from it, but I don't know, Preston, if you feel the same. Do you know who I'm talking
yeah, of
about?
course I do. Yes.
Okay, yeah, it was your first accounting
Yeah,
coach.
his name is Andrew Argue. He is he's a coach for accountants. He's not a coach for
Hmm.
marriage or coach for. He coaches accountants.
He was teaching accountants how to do sales
Yeah.
calls.
So, and that's
Yeah.
what
And
he
then,
did 9 years ago when I first met him in like 16. He doesn't even do that anymore. He's built software and he's kind of moved on
can
to
we
other
just
things.
acknowledge, sorry to overtalk. Can we just acknowledge that accountants are known to be boring, right? And they need help on the phone and with communication and all of this kind of thing. Like,
We can. I think that's fair. Yes, it's 100% fair.
Preston goes outside those boundaries though, because I dated a lot of boring people before I met Preston, and then it still blows my mind. I'm like, you're an accountant. Like,
She upgraded
how?
from an engineer to an accountant and thought she was going to get somebody that
Oh,
wasn't boring.
engineers. I mean, so I would put engineers as an extra. So they can be more boring. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
They're not always more boring, but they
they
can
can be
be.
exciting, but there's a general consensus on engineers and accountants.
Oh man. Well, so really interesting everything that we've started to dive into so far. I remember at one point you said that one of your children is an empath. Is it fair to say that Preston is also an empath?
Oh, I want to hear Lauren. I want to
Or
hear you.
is,
Me,
Yeah, I want to hear you talk
I
about that.
feel like I am very much an empath, and Preston is to some degree, and I don't know how to
okay.
explain it.
Okay.
I don't know
What?
how to explain that one. You go.
So I don't know that I would call myself necessarily an empath, but what I would
Okay.
say is, um, like I have a lot of love for a lot of people, right? Um, I I sometimes am blind to other people's emotions.
I would say you know how to be in tune.
Yeah,
I think that for me that would articulate it. Like I very much more feel. I feel everything around me. I feel everybody's emotions and stuff, which is why I have to build walls sometimes. But Preston, when
Okay.
he it wants to be aware and when he chooses to, he can be very in tune.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm starting to understand a little bit more. So when Preston was, and I have so many questions. Preston, when the stress level, because of the heart complications and the procedures that and everything that you guys had to deal with, when that was, for lack of a better term, uh, breaking you down to the, you know, to the bottom. We don't need to paint the worst picture in the world, but it was rough. It was rough. Um, you because you're good when it comes to emotions. You were seeking help through emotional states, but because also Lauren, you are an empath yourself, you needed to throw up walls so that you could handle the situation yourself as well without incorporating everybody else's emotions as much. Is
Mhm.
that kind of what
oh yeah,
I
was
think you
going
just
on?
nailed it.
yeah. That oh man, that I think is pretty spot on. So one of the things, like Lauren and I, we've talked about different places we want to live, and there's certain places Lauren has basically said I can't live there. Uh, because like I don't have a keeping up with the Joneses gene in me. Like I just don't have it. It's not there. It does not exist. I don't what other people are doing does not matter whatever impact my life at all. I can stay in my lane and just do whatever I'm going to do. Lauren oftentimes sees other people and is so affected by kind of their and I'm not going to say it's like keeping up with the Joneses, but like she has to,
No, because it's like I don't care about keeping up with the Joneses, but I feel and see, and so it's like I'm comparison, right? I'm so prone to comparison,
yeah.
Yeah.
and it's something I have to be really careful about myself, just to be able to like be productive or like not get off track. Um, but that like yeah, there's like I don't think I could live there or in that environment because I know what it would do to me, and that's not the kind of I don't want that consuming my
Mm,
time or my energy,
But yeah,
you
like
know.
bringing that back to Micah, like we both deal with things emotionally so incredibly different, kind of with how we kind of view the world and want to be seen. We both have like we're so opposites in basically everything we do. The way we
Mhm.
grew up, um, just literally from head to toe, we're like polar opposites, right? Um, and and how we dealt with Micah, how we dealt with that child in the hospital. Again, it was just polar opposites of how we were. I was like trying to cling on to a life preserver, and my life preserver was Lauren.
Yeah.
And
Mhm. And I couldn't handle it. I was
yeah,
I can't be your life
right,
preserver, right? Like I'm barely surviving
yeah.
and I don't know that I didn't even realize I was barely surviving and then he was trying to like help survive. I was like, this is not gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, when you're out in the ocean and you have like I've read about um not the SEALs but the Coast Guard, when there's somebody that is out in the middle of the ocean, like they're trying to, if you like get close to them, they will bring them down with them, right? Like they don't care. They're just trying to fight for survival. And what I was doing was I was fighting for survival, but I was fighting with Lauren and I was bringing her down with me rather than lifting us both up. Um,
Yeah.
and so Lauren is very
Wow.
prone to that. She's very prone to other people's those feelings. And so I was dragging her down with me through all of that. Yeah, I'm kind of realizing some stuff as we talk this out, as we kind of there's some things that are coming up that I haven't actually even ever thought about.
Now, is it fair to say, since you both openly admit that you don't really care about keeping up with the Joneses, that that may be why that early bankruptcy didn't necessarily crush you all. You separated,
Yeah.
but lots of entrepreneurs and business owners, they have an emotional attachment to the money. I think we all do to a degree,
Yeah.
but you have separated that emotional attachment to the money in a healthy way. And that's why you're like, ah, a bankruptcy is a bankruptcy. It is what it is. And we made a mistake and we can move on. But it's not like heart problems with a newborn
Right.
No,
son.
yeah, like that it's the kind of yeah, right? Like, oh, I have so many things to say about this, even the bankruptcy and kind of like I don't know. I probably I remember feeling a certain way about it was all me actually. Like I was the one that had to file for bankruptcy and I think that there is a stigma about it
Mhm.
and people have their view of it and opinions of it and I don't know. I feel like yeah, like I had to realize like um is this I don't know how to describe it. Preston, like during because it was right at the it was
Yeah, it
near the
was.
very beginning of
So what
my marriage,
happened
right?
was like
I have no financial education or background besides my
again,
husband, right?
polar
I did
opposites.
not grow up knowing how to manage finances effectively. I barely could I had jobs and stuff, but like my version of poor versus Preston's version of poor was very different. And it still is. It probably still is. Don't get me wrong. I like nice things, right? But I have definitely learned what what money can do versus what it means about you as a person. I guess I'm still learning those lessons, right? And early on, like this bankruptcy, it wasn't easy. It was tough, but like Preston said, I and in hindsight, it's 2020, right? Like that was nothing compared to the hell that we went through while our son was like fighting for his life.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think it's a matter of how you look at it. Money is a tool, so like I don't care about keeping up with the Joneses. I like nice things. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But it's not the end all be all, right? Like I grew up in a trailer. And before my parents built the house that we then lived in after that. And so like I said, my version of poor and having money is different than Preston's version of
So
having poor.
so there's a
Poor.
couple of things. One, when we were going through with things with Micah, I heard a saying. It says you can have 1,000 problems until you have a health problem, and then you have one problem, right?
Yeah.
Like
Ooh.
none of your other problems matter. Like it doesn't matter anything that's going else on. You drop everything, and that's your one problem, and that's all you deal about, think about, care about. And that's it, nothing else. And I remember the day, like my wife called me like in tears. He was. They basically said, "Hey, his heart isn't getting better. We're gonna have to trach him." And and she
What
called.
does that mean? So
Oh
for
yeah, so
trach
they're
him
gonna have
means
to
put
put
in a
a
put in a tracheotomy,
Yeah.
basically, like put
Ah,
the hole in his throat so he could breathe, and
Yeah.
which is a long-term thing. Like it
It
wasn't
was
just
not a
something,
it's
oh, we're
not
going
like,
to
"Oh,
fix it
hey, this
temporarily.
is," you take it out
It's a big
after a
deal.
year when he gets better. It was like, "Hey, this is gonna affect him literally the rest of his life." And she called me just sobbing, and it was tax season, and I was in meetings with clients, and in the middle of a meeting, I said, "Hey, I've got to go." And I called the rest of my clients for the next 3 days, and I said, "I'll see you guys next week, some point. I don't know when." And everybody was very, very like accommodating, but I dropped everything and was gone. And we went into the city and just kind of forgot about our problems for a minute. And again, it was one problem that were dealing with. Turns out he ended up not having that because his heart actually stopped. And they're like, okay, well, Trike's not going to fix that. And they ended up doing an exploratory surgery, and that's when he was actually fixed. Um, but like Lauren and I, we have such different communication styles. I remember one of my, looking back, it's now one of my favorite memories. I quit my job in 2013, started a brand new business, and again, we have different versions of what broke is. I I thought, oh, we have debt. We had debt for the first time since her bankruptcy. I didn't work for 3 months. I was starting a business and just spending money that we didn't have, and so we were racking up credit card debt. And I pulled my um, I pulled my Roth IRA to pay the credit cards, and I'm like, we have to pay that back. And one night, Lauren wanted to rent a movie on Amazon. And I'm like, no, we don't have the money. And she said, we have $200 in our account. I'm like, but we have $20,000 on credit cards. She's like, but there's money. And I'm like, we don't have any money. And I'm like, I'll go to Redbox. I'll rent you whatever you want. It's $1. I can't afford the five. And I didn't realize this until literally 9 years later. I ended up buying her like $1,000 coat from Canada Goose or something. And while we're
okay.
buying
Because
this,
it's
this
cold in
coat,
South Dakota, and yeah, it's cold.
it's
And
cold.
then, yeah,
It's an
it wasn't
investment.
until
She
we
needs
moved
it.
here that,
But while I was
yeah.
buying her this coat, or we were buying this coat together, she looked at me and said, "Wait, it really was just the money." And what I realized, she didn't hear, "We don't have the money." She heard, "I don't love you enough to spend $5 on an Amazon movie."
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
And
Yeah.
like we communicate so differently. And for me, it was just plus 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 minus minus minus. It's a numbers game. We don't have the money. Hers was, you're not willing to spend $5 to create joy for me, so you don't love me. Therefore, like $5 equals love. And it was not, we were not speaking the same language at that time.
No, no, we were
Oh
not.
man, I gotta play some music for that. Uh,
Woo!
Not
I
sure if you
know.
guys heard that, but
Definitely.
sometimes it comes down to, if you're saying, "Oh, we can't afford that," sometimes it's like people hear, "Oh, you don't love me."
Right.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
Mind blown. And that breakdown, like a lack of communication, a lack of clarity, sometimes it's those little things inside of the marriage, inside of the relationship, where, and those fights over money. And that's why, I mean, you've heard the stats. So many marriages end over money
Money.
issues, right? And it could be that this is where this is actually happening. If there's money issues and I say, well, we have no money, we can't pay for that $5 thing. Sometimes people equate that to meaning I'm not worth $5.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
what? Maybe
Well,
maybe we uncovered the whole problem in marriage when it
oh
comes
my
to
gosh.
money.
Well, who hasn't fought about money? My parents fought about money a lot growing up, and that's probably, I mean, who knows? I think that's why I have these deep-seated issues with like my value, my worth tied to like how much money I can make or not make, or my
Yeah.
debt. But okay, can we talk about the P&L, Preston?
Yeah.
The P&L and what that means. Okay, his name is Preston, starts with a P. My name is Lauren, it starts with an L. We are
Yeah.
P&L. Do y'all know what a P&L is? A profit and loss statement,
There you go.
okay? For
Profit.
Halloween, while we were engaged, we dressed up as a P&L statement for Halloween. Talk about like epic level nerdiness.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this will be so fun. We're P&L because I've always been the loss. Okay, so if we're talking about money, this goes deep. I've I have always identified myself as the loss part, right? It was because of me with the bankruptcy. I'm the one that wants to spend money, apparently. I'm the one that like can't make enough. And then like Preston and I have had multiple conversations over the years about this where I was like, Preston, I get that it's, we can joke about this whole P&L thing, but it legit makes me feel like I'm a loser. Like, why am I the lost part of all of this? Even though like I have issues with money and I realize like, okay, I've got a lot of lessons to learn. Like, how do I not be the L part of this P&L, So a lot of that has come from like just my own education about money, how money works in my business. Because when I started my business, it took off like a rocket and it was great. We were making tons of money. And, then as it happens with a business like that, it starts to even out. You got to figure out like what's actually, profitable, what's not profitable. So a lot of it's been education, hard won battles on like the P&L statement, like being honest with yourself about money, because it hurts so bad. I think the financial part about struggles in marriage is because it hurts, and it does. It's like our emotional tie to money are like, I don't know. It's weird that it does create so many arguments, and I don't know. Those are my thoughts. But Preston, I know you have some
As
too.
as a CPA, man, I have sat across literally thousands of people, and when we talk money, money brings up all sorts of emotions. And so I can't tell you how many meetings I have been in where I feel more like a therapist and a counselor than an accountant. Because it
Yeah.
just, the second you start talking money, I honestly view money. So how you actually make money is you trade one of four things, right? You trade either your time, which is literally your life, your energy, or your knowledge, right? You're trading one of those things, or you're trading money for money, right? Like, I'm going to give you $10,000 and you'll give me a return of XYZ, right? Um, and so you're trading literally pieces of your life for that money. And so when people have these issues with money, um, it brings up everything else. And so I've sat across from couples and from people, literally break down and whatnot with me with money. And with Lauren and me, it's been, like I said, when we got married, I had a net worth. I was able to pay for our wedding in cash. uh, Lauren had a lot of debt. There was like $250,000 of debt, and um, there was like very little assets, and so it was like just this imbalance. And that identity that she has had for the past, like, I don't think we're kind of away from it now, but of the
Yeah.
she's the lost portion of the P&L. It was an identity. It was like she took that on herself. And I realized like today that yeah, we were joking about it when we got married, and it was like kind of a joke, but wow, man, even jokes turn into identity.
It's not yeah,
Yeah, jokes
it's a
can be,
very
be
it's
careful.
unfortunately a very sticky
Yeah,
joke
yeah,
Yeah.
that you're not gonna easily forget. So
right.
Yeah.
Lauren, so how did you I mean,
Um,
overcoming
okay.
that? Because I mean, you talked about the self-help and everything, so
So
it sounds like you're not resentful anymore about
no, I'm
what
not
happened.
resentful anymore. I think part of it is taking on. I always felt like the carrot was dangling. So early on in our marriage, when I started learning about finance and the way Preston was handling our money, and I would ask questions. But I don't think it was until through the stuff with Micah. Micah was still very, very little. We were in and out of the hospital, and I always felt like the carrot was dangling in front of me of like, hey, there's this. Maybe you could make some money. Maybe you could have more value, Lauren. And every time I'd try and reach for it, it was like it moved further. And I was so sick of that carrot dangling. I was like, that is it.
Mm,
I am going to figure out a way to finally feel like I have some value when it comes to money.
mm,
And I was introduced to cookies by my mom because she took a class about how to decorate sugar cookies with an airbrush. And moms have an intuition. She brought it to Chicago where we were living at the time. And she's like, oh, let me show you this. Little did she know I would take it and run with it. And like, oh my gosh, this is something I needed. It was creative and I loved it so much. And so I started doing cookies. And then the two connected. I remember when I started making cookies and then people were like, oh, you should sell these. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. I started selling them. I was making money until Preston came to me and was like, told me you're not actually making money. So another opportunity to feel really hurt by the fact that my husband told me he didn't love me by telling me that I wasn't making money. It was true. I was spending more than I was making in my business, but it was, I remember.
We learned a lesson of profit does not equal sales that day.
Right. Profit, you got your revenue and then you have actual profit, right? Versus all your costs.
Yeah, gross versus
I remember.
profit.
Yeah. I was so mad. And I was like, dang it.
I gotta ask.
Okay.
So like, what did this balance sheet look like? Like, how was it actually losing money? Like,
Okay,
just
so
a general.
Preston, you remember? It was like, I remember I would be sending out
she was
invoices
spending
for
money on
$300 to
supplies.
$500 supplies. So yeah, I was sending out invoices. People were paying me for the cookies, but I was spending more in supplies and more cookie cutters and more stuff and I wasn't making enough.
So not just supplies, but equipment as well. You were still, it was equipment side as well.
Yeah.
Equipment side, but I wasn't looking at my numbers. Preston was still kind of handling it. And
was it also a pricing thing? Like, were they like
Probably.
amazing cookies, but they were like $2 but then when they needed to be like $5?
Yeah, so there's the whole value, and I actually go through this. I struggle with this with my own cookie community. Is like everybody feels like, oh, no one will pay me for that. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like you have to charge a certain amount if you want to make money with this, and if not, then like you shouldn't be in business.
They think people won't spend $6 on a cookie, but people spend
because it's tied to their
own
own worth. It's tied to their own worth.
People spend $6 on a cookie all the time.
Right. I'm like, oh, let me tell you, people spend like way more than that. Like it'll blow your mind. Yeah. So I remember Preston telling me, oh, you're not actually making money. And he showed me. And I was so mad. And I remember sitting at the dinner table that night and there was like this fire. And I was like so angry. And I was like, I could either let this turn into misery for me and I could just hate my husband and I could just feel so awful about myself. Or I can turn this into, I remember thinking I could turn this, I could do something about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I decided to let it like fuel me instead of make me upset. And I really think that there's been times in our marriage too, where you have to decide, am I going to let this be something that breaks or is this worth the fight? Am I going to choose that this is worth the fight to keep it together? But then crazy stuff happens and things bloom when you decide and you let that fire kind of like fuel you. And that was when I was like, no more, I'm going to do it. I'm going to build something and I'm going to prove everybody wrong.
Including
me. Forgive me for getting emotional, but like even my own stinking self, I'm going to prove myself wrong. I'm going to prove that I have value because I can do something that makes money. Right. And so I did, and it made a lot of money. And then there's times where you wish it was making more. And then
what? You put up a good fight.
That's right. Yeah.
So how many months did it take for you to start getting profitable, and how profitable were you able to get?
It was not long. So I was selling cookies out of my home. And then I was like, well, I got to take it online. I got to reach way more people. So that's when I built the online course called Cookie Camp. And then it took off. It took 9 months. We made $1 million in 9 months.
Not profit. Wait. Not profit.
No,
Those revenue.
There's gross, and then there's profit.
Preston will explain.
Okay. All right. $1 million. Yeah. What's the $1 million?
So I think on that first million, she did about, give or take 300,000 in profit. We spent a lot of money on ads.
Let's go.
But yeah, it was. So.
Whoa. Here we go.
My bankruptcy with that.
Hold up. Money back that You know what? Me whipping my hair back and forth.
Yeah.
Reminds me, we have failed the listener today because we never explained our get up for the day. Like, what's going on, Daniel? Like, what? So this was a conceptualized by Lauren and Preston, and they were like, "Well, what if?" All right, so you guys explain it. What's the purpose for our party gear today?
Oh my gosh. Well, we work together, we're married, and sometimes you get to a point where you may want to divorce the person that you are working with. And it's hard to decide who's right or wrong sometimes. So sometimes you need a judge to decide if who's right, who's wrong.
There you go.
Is that accurate, Preston?
You got to talk to a divorce judge. So I'm the divorce judge today.
There's no divorces.
There's no divorce
divorce is
going
happening.
on.
We have overcome
But
that.
you're in your entrepreneurial get up, cookie dealer hat that you found to
I'm a
represent.
cookie dealer. Yeah. So it's like they're very expensive. They can be very expensive, hard to get. They take a lot of time to make. So, yeah.
What's the price now? What was the price when things weren't profitable compared to the
Oh,
price now? Do you know?
$36 a dozen was not profitable.
36 was not
Then I
profitable.
went to 48. Nowadays my cookies are selling them for at least $75 a dozen.
Let's go.
Yeah. So she also doesn't sell the cookies anymore.
I don't do
So
that. Yeah.
she's kind of switched businesses to something that was where she could make kind of a bigger profit. So her entire
Well, the
goal when she
bigger
started
profit
was to do.
and reach more people. Because the reason I do it is it has a purpose. Otherwise, you can't keep going unless you have like a purpose behind it. So you make a lot more money teaching people how to do it than selling the cookies themselves. But I can reach hundreds of thousands of people instead of like my local community. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. And if you ever need to, then you can compete with Crumble. You can open up your own
Good.
version of a Crumble and then open up locations that way. There's lots of ways to scale. You just
Yes.
chose because of your experience with the internet and the communities you were involved with. You were like, maybe we scale it this
Try
way.
it
It's
out,
a
yeah.
little easier, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. And then so Preston, your get up. I mean, you make accounting great again. Are you trying to like what are you trying to say there?
There's a few things. For one, I am of the opinion I think we should get rid of the IRS, man.
Okay. Okay.
At the same time, so like what I do is I help people keep more of their money. But one of my biggest fears is if we ever get rid of the IRS, that people won't do their books anymore. They won't do their accounting because they need to know their numbers regardless of tax. Tax is just one aspect of why you need to know your numbers. And my biggest fear is, hey, we get rid of the IRS, you don't owe tax anymore, and people stop doing their books. That's honestly like, oh my gosh. So make accounting great.
I so want to make this political, but my only rule for the podcast is to not make it political.
There's
I've got
no
some
politics. It's just, hey, the IRS sucks.
no. Like I just off camera, I'll ask you about your opinions
Yeah.
of the
We won't talk
tariffs.
about that.
Oh,
Off camera though, off camera.
there we
But
go.
let's continue because we're staying focused. Let's stay in focus. So all right. So we explained our get up. Now we got our party gear and everything. Things are heating up. So today's topic specifically. Now you guys have overcome a lot. You've had some extremely stressful moments in life. You've already dropped some golden nuggets. But in the remaining 20 minutes that we have together, we wanna dial into more of these tips, more of these secrets, more of the how to when it comes to successful marriage as a business owner and avoiding that entrepreneurial divorce. Like, so what other tips do you have for us? What other stories? We're loving the stories. What what you got for us? Your best tips, because you've already coached as an accountant. Now I know
Yeah.
accountant. The real truth is accountants are marriage counselors.
Therapists, marriage counselors.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, no question. I honestly, for me, it is it's just being willing to sit in that uncomfort, like, um, and have those just hard conversations. It's because the longer you put off having those conversations, the more resentment grows, the more the walls build, and then the more like that's where things really, really, really fall apart. I have a lot of friends that went through similar things, like being in the community of a child that has had as difficult a life as my son has.
Mhm.
The divorce rates are off the charts in that community. They are just, um, it's really unfortunate, but I read once I can't remember the exact stat, but I think it was as high as like 80% of people that have a child that goes through that level of trauma, or a child that dies, the divorce rates are in like the 80%, in the 80s, right? So nationally it's like 50, and it's like they just skyrocket when you have that level of stress in your life. And I think, like, for us, that the biggest thing that we have learned is going from frustration to resolve. That time is just compacted, and we don't allow ourselves to sit in the upset. We don't allow ourselves to stay hurt. We stand up courageously and face those hard conversations, um rather than allowing those resentment, the hard feelings, to build. So that's been the biggest lesson that I've taken away. It's like, just be comfortable, like, having a tough conversation.
Yeah.
And I've tried to, like, bring that to other people, and it doesn't always work so well. And not everybody's kind of at that level where um they want to have a hard conversation. And it sucks, because I've
Yeah.
had some relationships really fall apart where all we had to do, if we just sat down and discovered, like, just talked for 10 minutes, just openly, honestly, and just brought it all out. Man, sunlight is absolutely the best disinfectant, right? Like, if you could just shine a spotlight on the problem, and then you work together to solve the problem. And I've had some relationships with friends and with family where that being in that discomfort, they've said, no, we literally don't want to talk about it. And then the relationship falls apart. And
Mm.
Lauren and we just say, no, it's screw it. Like, our marriage is more important than the discomfort. I'd rather, like,
Right.
be with you arm in arm, hand in hand, side by side. Uh, I'd rather be there than like, there, and still go through the hard stuff together, go through the hard conversations, the discomfort of coming together with your just bringing your garbage together and fixing it together. So yeah, kind of rambling a little
I
bit.
Yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
I would say, oh man, so many things. I think doing like hearing like stuff that Preston said and actually doing it are two different things, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of like, if I were to hear that, like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, well, how am I supposed to actually do that? That's more my area where I thrive, is I can see those gaps
Yeah.
of like, okay, well, how do you actually get to a point where you are okay to sit in the uncomfortable? How do you even know what to fight for when your brain is lying to you, right? Because
Yeah.
those so many things will go through our head. And I'm going to be totally honest here. There are still times where I'm like, are we still going to end up together? Is this meant to be? Because things are hard sometimes, and man, he really makes me upset sometimes. And he knows it, and we talk about that.
Yeah.
But like, I think that I was like, I used to be so afraid to even be honest about that,
Mhm.
because I was like, oh, that means does that mean we're going to get divorced at some point? No, because I get to choose that. And every
Right.
time I'm like, okay, well, I might be feeling that way right now, but like, I need to go tell him. And you gotta decide to be a grown up, right?
Mhm.
Because we all have like really childish attributes about how we want to fight, and how, they did this, and but I made, it made me feel this way. um I think for me is just continuing to decide to be a grown up about it. And
Yeah.
like, okay, I have a lot of childish feelings about it, right? And I want to stay mad and I want to stay mean, but like, who is that helping? And are we on the same team or not? I think
Yeah.
I've realized that like, my brain, like what's in my head is not always true. And that like, and Preston will remind me about this. He's like, honey, we're on the same team. And I was like, dang it, why do you have to be right? Okay, let's hug, because I want to stay mad sometimes, but it's like, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And there's always this power beyond that's going to want to rip us apart. But like, no, we have been through way too much, and we have overcome so much, and we have amazing kids who like, there's no way that I'm gonna ever, I want to ever go tell them that like, Matt, we've been through all this, and now we're not going to be anymore. So,
Well,
yeah.
that deserves some emotional music right there. Congratulations. I love that.
Yeah.
You did remind me. So when I was 17, about to
Okay.
go to college, I did go to BYU.
Yeah.
When I went out to college, I remember the state of how my parents acted towards me.
Huh.
And now that today I'm 42 and I have an 18-year-old of myself about to go to college, I realize that when I was 17 about to go to college, and now when my son is 18 and about to go to college, he views me and my wife, Kristen, as the people that have the answers. But we still don't have all the answers. We are still running into problems that we can either deal with or not deal with on a daily basis. Just like everything that you two just explained when it comes to, hey, are we going to resolve this issue? Are we going to work through it? Are we going to be in the uncomfortable zone and sit down logically for a second to come up with a plan, try to set the emotions aside because that's the choice. We're going to deal with the issue or we're not. And when it comes to um, us as grown-ups in the eyes of our kids, we are still learning. We are still progressing. We are still you and you, Lauren, you, Preston, and I, Daniel, we are still going to the seminars and reading the self-help books, and we are still learning on a daily basis. Our kids think we have all the answers. We don't. We are still kids in many
Oh yeah.
ways. There's not that much difference between how many years I've been on earth compared to my 18-year-old son. He thinks it's a massive difference, but it's really, in retrospect,
Yeah.
it's small. I mean, if we both live to 100, he's going to look just as old as I am for the most part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we're all still children that we're children that are married. And just like when we were children, we can either choose to deal with the situations that we're facing or not.
Right.
And that right there, that aha moment could be the big difference because you guys articulating that, that can be right there the big difference between a successful marriage and divorce, right?
Yes.
One of the things that, like, as you're talking about your son and about like you viewing your parents, as a child, man, you look at your parents as like, yes, they've got all the answers, they're perfect, and then you go through this period where like, oh, my parents are they don't know anything, right? They're
Yeah,
stupid, they know nothing, and then you come back
you
to
figure
like,
it out.
oh, they have a lot of answers, but there's literally, as a child grows, there's no one who sees a parent more nakedly and more openly and knows exactly who that person is besides their child. Like, as a child, you can literally see your parents. You understand them better than anyone. And so like I have my dad lives here. He was just here a second ago. I see him for who he is. I see his faults. I see his all of the good things about him. But I can see him so incredibly well. And my kids are going to do the same for me. Like we don't hide our arguments from our kids. We also don't hide the resolution either. Like we're open about with it. We're open about the arguments with our kids. When we argue, our kids see it, but they also see, hey, they still love each other. They can disagree and still have like an immense love for each other and come out 10 minutes later being completely resolved.
Can I talk about last
Yeah,
night?
yeah, please.
So this exact thing happened last night. Okay, so we're in the middle of tax season. Some tensions are very high. I was very stressed out last night. Preston gets home. Dinner was very late. Okay, and Preston, and I, we actually don't argue like this very often, but it was definitely more intense than normal. And our kids are super attuned to how their parents are feeling.
Right.
And our middle child, especially, and I could already see little Porter was on edge because he could tell mom was tense and they were arguing. And then dinner was ready. Because I was like, Preston, do you want to fight now or after dinner? Right? Do you want to do this now or after? So we went into another room. We had our conversation, we fought a little bit, and we're like, okay, cool. Then we resolved it. We came out, and Porter was like, I don't like it when you guys fight. He literally said that. And I was like, neither do I, buddy. But like,
Yeah.
and Preston immediately said, but look now, we talked about it and now we're okay.
Yeah.
And they saw that and then they were like, oh, yeah, okay. And I actually brought up, I was like, yeah, so when you kids fight, like, that's how it makes us feel. Do you think I like listening to that?
Good point. That's a great
lots
point.
of lots of opportunities for learning.
Yeah, and I
For
think it's
sure.
I think it's super interesting if you can get your children to the point because they understand the dynamic with
Yeah.
how your fights play out. If you can get them to the point where they understand, yeah, we don't like the fights either, but you know what's worse than us fighting?
Living this way.
Deciding not to resolve the issues, deciding
Yeah.
to bury things that should be fought. Well, I'm
Yeah.
using my
Yeah.
quotes for you
Yeah.
listeners, in quotations, fought or at least discussed, or at least they
Resolve.
deserve, a counsel,
Yeah.
right? Would you rather have us not deal with it?
Mhm.
Because
Sweep it
not
under the
dealing
rug.
with it can actually be a lot worse
Oh yeah.
when it comes to the emotional baggage, and that can build over time. And it's your son that's the empath, right? That you say is the empath.
Mhm.
If he can feel the tension when things should be resolved,
Yep.
if you compare what he could feel if you let things stack and not be resolved,
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
that's dangerous.
Worse. Oh yeah.
That makes me
Mhm.
scared, and I'm not an empath,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Oh man,
So
so good. Well, this has been so good. Do you guys have any final tips for everyone? Happy marriage, avoiding that entrepreneurial divorce. Um,
Yeah. I don't know. We've definitely had to learn how to like communicate in each other's businesses because we tried to be way more work together more in each other's business, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna like we we do much better running our own businesses and each giving insights like more on like a consultant level. That works for us. Okay, it doesn't mean that works for everybody else.
mhm.
I would say my thing I like to share is like you don't have to just go through all the crap in life and all the stuff that happens in marriage. If you choose to grow through it, um, like it's almost like it amplifies the awesome results afterward instead of just like, oh, I hate this, I have to go through it, but you can grow through it too.
Don't go through it, grow through it.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's go.
yeah, and the
Uh,
last thing that I would say is just if you can go into marriage with a servant's heart where you are not necessarily looking to get everything out of it, but you go in and like I try to serve my wife whenever I have the ability or the chance. And I
yeah.
see that she does the exact same thing for me. And so it's like we're each not giving 50%, we're both giving 100%, and we're both trying to like literally lift the other person up as much as we can. And expecting nothing in return, but we always do. And so that's been the key for I think one of those keys for us is like we're constantly looking for ways to serve each other.
Awesome, amazing. Well, so I know we didn't go deep into marketing secrets today and business building techniques. We hinted towards some really exciting things when it comes to business building. We got to hear some cool stories about you guys' businesses. I think it's fair to say that Lauren, you're an amazing coach. And Preston, you are also an amazing
Oh,
coach.
thank you.
So if I am looking to start a cookie business, or if I am looking for an accountant, not only do I get a great accountant and a great cookie coach, but I also get somebody who can share some really cool advice if needed. So where can people go, both Lauren and Preston, in order to learn more about the both of you and your businesses?
Wanna go
Go,
first?
you go for it.
Oh, lollysHomeKitchen.com. So Lolly, LOLLYS homekitchen.com. That's my, you can find everything there.
LollysHomeKitchen.com.
Yep.
Perfect.
For me,
Love
it's Anderson.tax. It's a terrible website. It's got to be fixed.
No, and their son.
And their son.
Dot tax.
There's ton, yes.
SON.
You got
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much, both Lauren and Preston. And with that, all right. Thank you for joining
Thank you,
us
Daniel. This has
in
been
this
awesome.
episode of the Marketing Podcast Party. Please share this episode with your friends, family, and business partners. Also, and probably your spouse. Also, remember that the party continues with your free copy of the Ideas That Influence book, an interactive box experience. I wrote both the book and created the box experience to help you with even more wildly successful marketing ideas. Head on over to bigideasbox.com to grab your copy. You'll get your copy for free. You just pay shipping and handling. Once again, that's bigideasbox.com for your free plus shipping copy of Ideas That Influence. I'm Daniel Din. This is the Marketing Podcast Party, and I'll see you in the next episode.